Nidhi, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us about, please introduce yourself fully, tell us about your work, and please tell us a story.
Thank you so much, Eric. I hope I'm audible. Is there any disturbance?
You're fine, loud and clear.
Great. So first of all, a big thanks to you, Eric, for this platform. It's just amazing. It's always a learning experience whenever I have heard different storytellers. So again, a huge, huge thanks to you. So I'm from Mumbai. My name is Nidhi Bagaria. I'm the founder of The Creative World. It's a storytelling and creative expression program for children. I have been narrating stories for, I can say, a pretty long time. I mean, there are people over here who've been doing it for a very long time. So I can say a pretty long time. I've been working with children, and a major chunk of my time has been with children. But yes, after I met Eric and I kind of mentored under him, I started doing it with adults too. So I also train adults for storytelling, and I was a teacher trainer as well. So the journey has been beautiful. It's always a learning experience. And yes, I'm really, really happy that I'm part of this. So today's story, my story's name is The Broken Compass. So I would just like to take a little bit ahead with what John said when he began his story, that the transformation that happens within us happens at a time when we are ready. There is a time for that to happen. So, and I believe we all have an inner compass where healing is concerned, where transformation is concerned, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's spiritual. So that inner compass is what guides us through life. And when I was searching for stories, this is a story which really resonated with me, and I hope you enjoy it as well. It's a fairy tale. Yeah, so there I go. This is a story about a lady called Neblina and her voyage, and what happens in her life, her realization. So it was a very, very dark day. The ocean was churning and Neblina was in her boat. There was a huge storm which was right on top of her head, and the wind was whistling like a pack of wolves. She tried to manage the boat to drive it in the right direction, but it was next to impossible. She took her oars and held them like a radar to still her boat, but it went spinning round and round, just like the storm. She tried and tried, but she realized that she was lost. She looked at the compass that she had in her neck and looked at it, trying to see if it will guide her to her north, to a safe harbor. But unfortunately, the needle of the compass was also just moving wildly. She was tired. A day passed. She was hungry. There was no food. There was no water without salt. She wanted to drink some water. Gradually, she learned how to use her oars to catch the fish. She would hit the fish or pick up some hook or some waste found on the waves as a bait to catch the fish. When the cloud would pour on her, she would take the water from her hair and try and drink that water from her clothes and the strands of her hair. She learned how to make a bait with her hair or some broken rope. A few days went into weeks, and now her urge to find her home was getting less and less. She would do her best to steer the boat so that she could find her way. Gradually, There were turtles and there were dolphins who would come. They would have either a net or a hook around them, and they would plead to her to help her with her gentle hands. She would go and remove the hooks or the nets and free these creatures. There were hungry gulls which would come and stand near her boat and shout, "We are hungry, give us some fish, we are hungry." And she would do her best to catch fish for herself as well as feed the seagulls. And this is how her life went on. Months went into years. Her golden hair became streaks of gray. One day, something happened. As she was trying to maneuver her boat and help the seagulls with the fish, with the storm right on her head, which was very stubborn and refused to move, she saw a man trying to swim, trying to get help. And he was shouting, "Help!" Evelina was amazed. And when the man looked at her, he was surprised and so thankful. She did her best to row her boat in spite of the storm and help the man. Finally, she could hold his hand and brought him onto the boat. He was very tired. She gave him the last drop of fresh water that she had. Oh, he had a mouthful and thanked her and gradually went off to sleep. The man slept for a day and a half, and Evelina just looked at him. She was amazed and thankful that after how many years had she seen a human being. The seagulls shouted at the back, shouting for some fish. She ignored them. Soon the man woke up. He said, "Hi, where are we? Do you know where we are?" "Yes, of course." And Evelina stopped. "Are you lost?" Evelina looked down and said, "Yes, I am." "But where were you going?" "We were heading towards the Caribbean island, but our ship capsized. Our the person who was driving the ship was drunk, and you know how the waves are near the shore." "Oh, were you very near your destination?" "Just 3 days, and we would have reached the island." "Oh, I'm so sorry. But how can we go? How can we find our way to the shore now?" And Evelina looked at her compass again, hoping that she would be able to see a direction. "What's your name?" she asked the man. "I'm Felin." She said, "I'm Evelina." And she had a smile on her face. Finally, Felin said, "Don't worry. We will try and find our way to the shore. I know an island. I have got some medicines for my sister who's unwell. Once we reach that island where my parents and my sister lives, you can rest there and then decide where you want to go. Where is your home?" She was like, "All right." And so Felin tried his best to row the boat and take it. He tried. He said, "Because of this storm, we will try and look at the stars and find the way with the help of the constellations." And so he started looking at the stars and making star maps on the boat, at the bottom of the boat. And he would teach Evelina how to find the way towards the shore. Days passed and he would make different star maps. One day, Evelina Nebelina sat down and was just observing the star maps, trying to understand how they would guide and how to find her direction. Philip was looking at her. What? Philip said, look at your compass. The needle has slowed down. Really? Yes, it has. It has slowed down. It has started to work. And suddenly, there was a shriek of a whale who needed some help. And Nebelina stood up and started to help the whale who had a hook stuck onto its blowhole. And again, there was a lot of movement and the compass started to whirl around. Philip said, Nebelina, have you realized that if you sit still, the compass would help you and take you towards your home? It will help you to find direction. What? What are you saying? Look at you. You're not steering your boat and you're just helping these creatures in the sea and you're not sitting still. That's why you're not finding your way home. What are you saying? You don't know anything. I know this compass will help me. I've been steering the boat, but this storm has been behind me for so many years. What can I do? So at least I'm helping these creatures. I'm doing something on the boat. And she had hot tears going down her cheeks. Have you been on this boat for so long? Nebelina said. Yes, and I'm really tired. I'm sorry. Salim said. He held her hand and said, don't worry, we'll find our way. And soon, you know what? Nebelina saw land and they quickly reached towards the land. There was so much joy. Felin shouted with joy and Nebelina joined him. Finally, they reached the shore. Nebelina stepped down on the warm sand and just stood there under the sun. She could see the storm becoming a little less. Now, they started to walk. And Feline said, let's leave this boat here. When we walk southwards, we will find some bigger boats and a ship which might take us to where we want to go. I said, no, I cannot leave this boat. How will I find my home? How will I reach my home? I need to take this boat. Finally, after arguing a little, they pulled the boat with the last rope they had and walked across the beach. On the way, they stopped for some time to have some coconut milk and some coconut water. They walked until they had no more energy. It was soon dark and they sat down under the tree. They started talking. Philip shared about his family, his mom, and what a good cook she was, the island that he lived on, and his sister for whom he was taking some medicine. And Nebelina shared her story of how she lived with her aunt and the warm, cozy home that they had, the warm fire, the hot soup which warmed her throat, the delicious aroma of the food that was being cooked. Philip asked her, but where are your parents? She said, I don't know. I've been living with my aunt since I was 8 years old. You've been very brave, living alone on the sea, living like this. Don't you feel lonely? Oh, not really, because I've been so busy helping these animals and fending the storm and just feeling miserable. I didn't have time to feel lonely. What do you do, Philip? Oh, I am busy too. I run my father's shipping business. I have to carry forward his dream. Don't you have any nice girls where you stay? Oh, I didn't get any time to mix with girls, but I do want to have a house and live and have a family and be with someone who can let me be me, just like you. You help me to be me. Hearing this, Neblina felt a warmth spreading in her heart. They both held hands and went off to sleep. The next morning, they headed southwards and soon they found a ship. And Felin said, "Look, Neblina, that is going to take us to our home. Come on, let's go. We need to swim to that ship." Neblina said, "No, let's row. Let's take my boat along. We will row in this boat." Felin said, "Neblina, I'm sorry. This boat has not given you anything. Leave your compass. Leave your boat. Let us go together. Let us swim to that ship. I will help you. Don't worry." Neblina could not move her feet. She refused to leave her boat, to leave her compass. She said, "No, please." Finally, Philip took a hard decision and said, "Neblina, I need to leave. I need to go to my family. I need to give them the medicine. My sister needs me." And saying this, he started to swim away. At that point, Neblina realized she's never going to see Pelin again. He swam away and he tried to call her, but her feet would not move. Suddenly, she felt very lonely and she started to sob. The cloud again came on her head and poured cold water onto her. She dragged herself to a cave and sat there and sobbed, thinking about her family, thinking about losing her only companion that she had found in Felin. And she thought, "I'm never going to be able to find my way home. I do not have the strength to go back and row myself alone. Oh, I'm all alone. What will I do? I am lost." Thinking this, and finally, tired of sobbing, she dozed off to sleep. And she had this beautiful dream of her aunt's house where there was, she felt secure, she felt safe. There were happy faces, smiling faces. There was the aroma of food being cooked. And of course, her dog and her best friend. The next morning, when she woke up, she had a little more hope. She stepped out of the cave and started to collect some food for herself. She collected some firewood to make a fire for her. A few days passed, and one day she heard the shouts of the villagers. And she saw a lady waving at her, calling her. She went near and saw that there was a dolphin which had been trapped in a fisher's net. They asked her to help them. She removed the net, and the oldest woman of the group looked at Neblina and smiled. Neblina found her just to be like her aunt. Soon, she started to make friends with the villagers, and she would join them in the evenings for dinner, and gradually, she started to like the place. And she realized, why can't I make this my home? It doesn't have to be any other place. These people have accepted me for who I am. This is my home. And soon she started to build a beautiful cottage with the help of the villagers. And over there, she stood near the window. And you know what? She saw the compass. It was still. And where was it pointing? Towards her heart. That's when she realized that Philip was right. It was in her stillness that she could find her way back home and he helped her part of the way to find her home, which was in her heart. Thank you. And that day she heard the beautiful chirps of birds and not an ugly cow of crows. So much. And there's a beautiful poem which I would like to share, which is related.
Nidhi, we just have a moment.
All right, sure, Eric. I think
Yes,
we're over.
I apologize, but I just have one question. When she was at sea there and being swept by the waves and the wind, and the compass was not working, but then somehow there was a transformation and she got to shore safely. What was that transformation about? How did that happen?
So it was when Philip joined her, and they, kind of rode and rode. He took the direction from the constellations. So they ended up landing onto some land, though it was not the one that Philip wanted to go to.
Okay, so it was the assistance from another person,
Yes.
and working with the constellation in the sky.
Yes.
So both with nature and with a friend, those two elements helped her.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we could have a wonderful discussion about this story, but we'll have to have it in the chat section. Please, people, write your comments, and Nidhi, please leave your email ID there, because we have to go on now. I apologize, Nidhi.
No problem. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
Thank you so much. Very good. Okay.